All right, what's up, guys? Jaden here. Just finished up with a run. I took the long way, so I had a little more time to cool down while I'm walking so I could shoot this video. So this isn't going to be so much a symptom update today because I literally just dropped another video. But today, I actually wanted to talk about something that I'm very bitter about, something I'm very passionate about, and also something that has played a pretty big role in my continued alcohol use. I know some of you guys are like, why are you torturing yourself? Why are you doing this? Well, first of all, I've done pretty good with it, all things considered, I think. And, you know, I'm not a perfect human being. Nobody is. But no excuses. But I did want to get it off my chest so you guys can understand a little bit. And I know some of you guys, you're struggling with this condition. A lot of you guys will be able to relate to it. Maybe a different career, different aspect of life, but I know you guys will be able to relate to it. So I feel obligated to speak on it. At the same time, kind of get it off my chest because, like I said, it's something that is still very new to me, learning to live without, and it very much affects me. So what it is, guys, is sorry, I'm catching my breath still, but it's my career, law enforcement. As you guys know, if you've seen my videos, or if you don't know, it took me a really long time to get hired by a department. My dad's a felon. I have an uncle doing life in prison. Although I didn't grow up in my father's family, these are all things that they heavily check into when you're trying to get hired. And that made it really difficult for me to get hired. Not only that, but also decisions I made. Like I said, I'm a flawed human being. I was raised by a single mother, and that was really hard on me. So I made a lot of mistakes in my life. I had to teach myself how to be a man. I'm the oldest cousin and oldest out of all my siblings. So I was a man of the house at a very young age and made a lot of mistakes. Nothing crazy. I haven't even been arrested before, but it's just things that you have to disclose to different departments that you potentially might get hired by. They have you fill out a thick packet called the personal history statement. And I was very honest with mine. I later found out after I put myself through the academy that a lot of people aren't honest about it, but I was very honest about it, especially as a young man. And I stacked up a lot of departments really quick trying to get hired, and I got denied by a lot of departments. So one of the questions they ask you is how many places have you applied, and you have to sit there and list them all out. And it looks terrible. If you applied to like more than 4 or 5, and you got DQ'd by all of them, you're already turning heads. But I actually shotgunned applications because, again, like I really just wanted to be, you know, in law enforcement ever since I got my ride along, because I wanted to help people. And obviously the money is nice depending on, you know, what department you go to, but most areas pay very well and the benefits are really good. But I honestly could care less. I did armed security and regular security for a very long time before I got into law enforcement, before I put myself through the academy. And honestly, I would love to have stayed at even that job because I did, you know, get a lot of satisfaction out of helping people. You know, business owners or employees will call you. I live in a big city, so there's a lot of problems with homeless and drug use. And I got a lot of satisfaction by solving problems. A lot of these issues, law enforcement here is so understaffed in my city in California. Thank you. That it's hard for them to deal with misdemeanor calls and low-level calls, but I did a very unique kind of security where I actually could enforce laws via citizen's arrest, and it was highly encouraged by the jobs that I worked, most jobs that I worked. Some of them were hands-off companies, meaning you don't arrest people or anything like that. You don't even have a pepper spray on you or nothing, but most of the jobs I worked, I was fortunate enough to have got really good experience. And anyway, back to my struggle. So yeah, losing my job was really hard on me. I waited till the last moment because it took me so long to get hired. I tried with probably like 30 different departments before I paid my own way through the academy. And there was some of them I didn't try because after a while it's like, dang, I keep getting disqualified. So after a while, like, why even bother, you know? So I just put myself through the academy, paid my own way. And none of this, I'm really I don't have any bitterness toward the departments that hire me, because on paper, like, I just look terrible. I did all right in high school. I had pretty good grades, but college wasn't for me. I dropped out of college. I did one of those things where I took literally a whole bunch of classes, and all my classes I just stopped going halfway through. So on paper it says F, but really I was actually passing all my classes, but it just wasn't for me. So I stopped showing up. And again, you have to show law enforcement almost everything you've ever done. So of course they get a copy of your transcript before they decide to hire you. Anyway, everything made it really hard for me to get hired. And it sucked, and it was hard on me because I know I'm in it for the right reason. And meanwhile, I was watching all these videos of police brutality and these guys getting DUIs while working or off duty, and it really just makes me sick, man. It's, you know, and to this day, that's something I'm bitter about, but I'll get there in a second. So put myself to the academy in 2021 and finished up there. My academy took a really long time because it was a part-time academy. It's just 30 hours a week. And I was working at the time also while going through that. So anyway, got hired by kind of some luck. My commander was a retired lieutenant from somewhere. And yeah, it was very lucky. He really hooked me up. I went into his office one day and I was like, listen, this is everything I've done. You know, I'm not perfect, but I'm certainly far from a bad person. Because, you know, at the time I was like, nobody's hiring me. You know, I was one of the last people in my academy to get picked up by a department. But I laid it all out there, and he was like, you know, there's no reason why any of this should prevent you from getting hired. So he really vouched for me, as well as a few other guys from my academy who haven't been hired yet. There was another one of my good friends, shout out to David. Won't say what department he works for obvious reasons, but it was hard for him to get picked up too, and our commander really did us a solid and hooked us up, because I don't think me or him would have got hired without it, unfortunately, if we're being 100% honest on everything, which we were. So, you know, and by the way, when I was going to the academy, I was having horrible mucus, horrible breathing issues, you know, that whole thing, where it was really hard for me. You know, all the runs were hard. I was actually, not to brag, but I'm actually very fast. I ran track and cross country most of my life, and I was the most, you know, the quickest in my academy. But even the runs were really hard, because what I would do is I would go out on Friday, and then Saturday we had, you know, the hard runs in the academy. And that was before I even knew what my problem was. You know, I kind of just chalked it up to, you know, it's just reflex. No, I was very naive. So there was a lot of days in the academy, I'd say most days, where I was uncomfortably clearing my throat and trying to hold it all in without sounding like I had COVID and all that shit. And it's just really uncomfortable. Kind of irritated at myself for putting myself through that, but I think it did build my character and ultimately help me understand what's really important in life, which is your health. You don't have anything without your health. Your career means nothing at the end of the day without health, and I learned that the hard way. So long story short, had a lot of symptoms throughout the academy. I remember how I literally would cough up so much mucus and like clear my throat, like spit it out. And like this one dude, if he's watching my videos, shout out Vlad, he'd be like, dude, are you okay, bro? I'm like, yeah, dude. And he'd be like, you swallow that? That's disgusting. I'm like, I don't have another choice. Like, I can't keep in a lecture on hours on end in the academy. You can't just keep going up, and you can't keep going back and forth and you know, going from the trash can to sitting down, or the trash can to sitting down. So like, I had to learn to swallow it. As gross as that sounds. But anyway, yeah, I got hired, and then most of the time I was okay. Well, not most of the time. Most of the time I was bad, except a few times when I did take a pretty big break off of drinking, and then I was kind of okay. Still had symptoms, still never really got comfortable while working, but FTO was very stressful for me as well. FTO is when you're in training, so you're hired by a department, you finish the academy, and then you go and it's time to get trained. So they stick you with several officers, and they train you for a long time. And yeah, that was very, very stressful. I'll be open about my experience with that. So first of all, my department is predominantly white. I'm not going to make this a race thing, but I would say I was definitely out of place there. I felt like I was untreated at times. There were things that were not officer safety risks. For example, making a passenger side approach after you've already made a driver side approach once you pull somebody over. So it's a big no-no when you pull somebody over to walk in between the cars on your way to the car before you know if he's, a bad guy, because you can tell a lot by the vibe. And I pulled over this older guy for having a broken tail light at nighttime, which is a problem. Thank you. Which is a problem. And it wasn't because I was trying to fish for warrants or any other reason than he had a broken tail light. And I just wanted to warn him so he'd get it fixed. But I approached him on the driver's side first. I recognized he wasn't a dirtbag, got his ID, and everybody was on the radio. So I wanted to run his name on the computer so it can be logged, because you have to do that. And the radio was going off. There was some other people on other calls, so I didn't want to interrupt the radio traffic. So I teach you in the academy, you can walk in between both cars on the way back, since I know he's not a bad guy. He's just some old guy who's not going to back up and try to kill me. That's the whole point of that, because they think that can happen, which it can, but again, old guy, not a dirtbag. So I did that, and then I got a 1 in officer safety that day. And there was several other things that they tried to get me on, like constantly updating your location. Like, we got this one call one time where we were literally trying to find somebody's iPhone for them, because they thought, we worked at a smaller city. I worked in a small city, not where I live. And sometimes you just get calls like that. This one lady lost her keys under her her seat and called us for that, and I went and helped with that. So you get calls like that. But they lost their iPhone. I guess they thought somebody might have stole it, which they didn't. But my training officer was like, you have to update your location. Update it. I'm like, dude, nobody updates their location every 30 seconds. Like, this is fucking ridiculous. Like, everybody knows we're out here. I've already updated it. They know where we are. When I change locations, then I'll update it. But why would I say, still here, I moved 10 feet that way or 10 feet that way? But later I found out, I did some thinking about why my experience was so bad there, and I realized it was because I had one officer, one of my FTOs. He was actually a really good FTO. I won't say his name. FTO's field training officer. He was actually a pretty good FTO, but he did sleep when he was on duty. And, that was kind of like, really, I didn't get a lot of experience when he did that, but most of the time he was pretty good. And there's this one particular night when I was trying to learn field sobriety tests, which is really, really tedious. There's a lot of work that goes into it. There's a lot of officers that have several years on and still don't even like to do field sobriety tests, and they're uncomfortable with it, and they'll just pawn it off on another officer that's been, that likes to take the DUIs and work hard, which should be all of us, but it wasn't. But I was trying to learn, and he kept making fun of me, and at first it was like, but I just switched to night shifts after having day shifts, because when you're on training, you're constantly switching back and forth between shifts, and it gets really tiring, and you're always doing overtime and record on your off days, and it's tough. So eventually it got like, okay, bro, like, I get it, like, relax. And then he kept going, after a while it seemed kind of hostile, and I was like, hey, listen, like, really stop. And then he kept doing it, so I'm like, all right. I kind of walked into the break room to cool off, and I was like, no, this isn't cool. So I told one of the sergeants, the FTO sergeants, and I think, it's a small department, word got out on that, and ever since then, I was treated what I would consider unfair. And I'm not trying to come off as braggy or anything like that, but I have a lot of experience, like I said, prior to law enforcement, with a lot of different things that relate to law enforcement, and they kind of just, I'd say, bullied me in a way, because I think they wanted to get me out of there. I'm different, and I think they were trying to teach me a lesson for telling on that one FTO that I'm talking about, which is really unfortunate, because like I said, he was a pretty good FTO most of the time, and fully honest about that. But you know, at the end of the day, I need to learn in a good environment. I can't have somebody just constantly do that after I've already warned them, like, look, you know, can you lay off a little bit? So, yeah, so, and, you know, I cleared training. I'm not going to lie, I won't leave out this detail. I actually full on quit a week before I was off training, actually, because you have to remember, I'm dealing with the stress of my medical condition this whole time. I'm uncomfortable as fuck working 12-hour shifts. And it's just really hard for me. So I'm always open about that. A lot of people judge me, but you know, at the end of the day, they have no idea what it's like living with this condition. And even right now, just to be able to go for a run and walk and have this conversation is really a blessing for me. And most people never know what that feels like. Most people don't even run in the first place, you know, let alone enjoy it. And you know. So anyway, so yeah, about me leaving, I was fed up with constantly doing things that are not in any type of violation and receiving unfair reviews. And they can actually remove you from the force because you're an at-will employee. So you keep getting, they call it extended when they don't feel like you're ready for the street by yourself. And they kept doing that to me on my last phase. And I was like, okay, they're clearly trying to get rid of me, so fuck this, I'm just gonna leave. And yeah, I left. Chief pulls me into the office. He says, why are you leaving? And I tell him, and then he says, just stick it out, we'll put you somebody else. And I went home and thought about it for a couple days. And then they ended up putting me with somebody, a really good FTO, can't say his name either, but he gave me a fair shake. And we had several good calls where I just handled it amazing, which I didn't do anything different. Mind you, I didn't. Everything I did was there. The only difference was he recognized that and didn't just look to, you know, get me off the force, because he wasn't part of that inner group of people that knew the guy that I told on. So ended up clearing FTO, and I felt amazing. I mean, not symptom-wise. Symptom-wise, I was still pretty bad, and I was still, you know, drinking, not heavily, but, you know, enough. It doesn't take a lot with this condition to set you off. And yeah, I worked for 3.5, almost 4 months, I think. And then I remember after I cleared FTO, I took like a month off of drinking. I felt okay, pretty good. I don't want to say I was perfect, but definitely pretty good. And then I remember I caved and started eating a lot to try to gain my weight back, because every time I cave, I lose a little bit of weight. And at the time, honestly, guys, I really didn't know that it was a true cause and effect, like alcohol symptoms. But in hindsight's 2020. Now I can be like, that was definitely part of it. Because there's sometimes when I drink and I was fine. So I think it's just compounds, and it's a hard thing to. I didn't realize that after a while of journaling on my symptoms, like a madman trying to figure out what the fuck is wrong. But anyway, so I went out with a couple guys, and we celebrated something. I forgot what it was, but I drank a few days in a row, and then from there it was just all bad. It was all bad. I couldn't shake it. Had a lot of symptoms. I don't know if I get bronchitis sometimes from it. I really don't. But it's like I cough up green mucus, and it was so fucking thick, like almost like a booger. And that stayed for a while. Just really drained. And then got to the point. I always hit my workout before my shift. And it got to the point where it's like, holy shit, I don't think I'm all right. I started getting dizzy and everything like that. Like, it was really crazy. And yeah, that's about the time when I had to take some time off work, and then you guys really know the rest. I tried to recover from it. One thing that I didn't leave out, I don't know if some of you guys have seen all my videos, but if you haven't, I'll just refresh your memory. My last day of work was me at the ER in my uniform. That was very, very eye-opening to me. And what would happen was I'd have so much mucus and difficulty breathing that I'd actually get dizzy. And I remember like my left hand become numb, and it was so fucking scary. One, because like the breathing issues one thing, but like I actually got lightheaded and I felt like I was gonna pass the fuck out, get dizzy, start seeing stars. So that happened. Then the ER doctor was like, yo, like, are you still taking your lansoprazole, which is the PPI I was on for a while? And I said I was. And he said, you gotta stop that. So what do? I just stopped taking it cold turkey completely. And then I had such bad symptoms after that. Before I couldn't really feel the burning in my throat that much, but then after that, man, felt like a dragon breathing fire. It was terrible. And felt like I was inhaling all the fire too, which is even worse. And I still don't remember a whole lot, to be honest, from that time on, from taking time off work to those first 2.5 months. I don't remember a lot because I was going through so much. It was so traumatizing. And I went to the ER like 8 times from late September of 2023 to, hang on, open my house key. From late September 2023 to, must have been like early or mid-December. So it was very, very hard on me mentally. And ever since then, haven't been a police officer. I had my surgery because they really thought that this was all just reflux and that was the end all be all. They saw I had a hiatal hernia a little bit later after doing a bunch of tests, and I tested. I had all these food allergies. I was obviously constipated. I had other issues going on that weren't as bad, but they just wanted to chalk it up to reflux, functional issue. So it wasn't until I took it upon myself to do all this testing where I knew something else was going on. But that wasn't until after I had my surgery. I had a very, very serious surgery. The fundoplication is not a easy surgery at all. It's very tough, very hard recovery. So it wasn't until after that where I had the surgery, and then literally I read all these things online. People that had that surgery are recovering pretty quick. Like, they're not having mucus for much longer after the surgery. Like, obviously you're going to be inflamed because they just did a major procedure to your stomach area, so your whole esophagus is going to be inflamed a little bit. But there's a lot of posts where they just don't have reflux out. Like, they don't feel any throat clearing after that. Even if throat clearing is your main symptom, they just don't have it. And that was not me. Like, the first 2 weeks was just a liquid diet, and I got these dairy shake things. And I just remember my uncle and I would go for a drive because I couldn't do really much else. And I just put the top down on my S2000 and go for a drive. And I remember I drank those, and I'm like, why the fuck am I still having kind of the same symptoms? Like, this is fucking bullshit. And it wasn't until recently where I started entertaining more of the food allergy ideas and the sheer amount of time you have to give it of being sober and staying away from your real triggers before you heal. And I do think that applies too. If you just have reflux, that the same thing applies too. Like, it takes time. It's not going to be like this snap of the finger thing. Then you have that, and then I slowly started chipping away and feeling a little bit better. Ups and downs, really. After my surgery was April of last year. So after that, I went through some ups and downs still, and that's pretty much based on drinking mostly, but there are some foods that still trigger me, so it's still very much so a experimenting. But I'd say I'm pretty good right now, at least over the last few days, especially since my last video. And that's really where I'm at right now. But as far as the law enforcement thing goes, which I kind of sidetracked because I just wanted to explain everything in detail. As far as the law enforcement thing, I recently had to come to terms truly with the fact that just Yeah, I still get mucus. I recently had to come to terms with the fact that I might not get a shot at being a police officer again. That's really hard. It's a really hard pill for me to swallow. But at the same time, there's been so many different realizations I've had, from the time I first started having this condition, when it originally started as stomach issues, and then that got worse and then transpired into the throat clearing. And especially since I was a cop till now, I've come to so many realizations that I don't think I ever would have had I not gone through that sheer amount of suffering for such a prolonged time too, because suffering is one thing, but suffering and not having a answer to your suffering and not having a path, to clear the suffering, and to not even know if the suffering is going to get better is true hell. It's true hell. Because if I break my arm, right, it's frustrating, but it's like, okay, there's a recovery, there's data. Okay, I'll probably get better in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, do physical therapy, after the cast comes off, and there's a timeline, right? With this shit, there's no fucking timeline. And as much data as I took on foods that set me off, and I think it might be alcohol, and I think this and I think that, like, I truly just will never know until I have such a reduction of symptoms for X amount of time, for months, and then I can probably say, like, okay, this is it, which is why I made the decision to completely give up alcohol in all forms for a year minimum. And then I'm not eating a lot of other things. I'm not trying to consume that much dairy right now. Chicken is another thing where, like, I don't know how that would be any type of irritant or allergy, but like that's just something that I'm noticing can cause me issues. So like I'm constantly experimenting with things. But I think alcohol is definitely a big one. But yeah, I have to accept the fact that I probably won't be a police officer again because I don't have that hookup anymore. Plus, I've already tried, since, because right now I'm working, I have a job, I have a side hustle. I'm in a much better place than I was, as much as I make these videos, and, there's sometimes I'm having issues and constantly trying new things. I'm not suffering anymore. I'm not miserable anymore. I'm not in a place where I can't think about anything else except my symptoms like I was anymore. I'm not literally in hell anymore, Now it's just kind of like, okay, well, these are uncomfortable. Sometimes pretty uncomfortable, mainly at the gym when I lift weights, but, mostly doable for sure. So I'm not in that place anymore. But I have tried to get hired by a lot of police departments. I failed all of them, getting disqualified. I always pass the interviews. I think I've only failed like 2 interviews in law enforcement in all my tries, to be honest. And again, not bragging, I'm just giving the facts. So it always comes when they say, okay, we like you, send you the packet, and then you got to fill out the PHS that I was talking about earlier. And and then you got to fill all that out and submit it. And then that has obviously all your history in it, all the departments you applied for before, departments you worked for, your literally everything you can think of in your history, like criminal stuff, insurance, all your jobs, all your coworkers' phone numbers, their emails, like everything. It has all that. And every time I send it, nada, just disqualified. So it's one of those things where I really have to, it's I'm not going to downplay it. It's very, very frustrating for me. It's very hard on me because, again, like I said, I'm in it for the right reason. There's a lot of people that are in it for the wrong reason. I can tell you that much, especially after being on the inside of it. I know how that works. A lot of people. First of all, there's a lot of good officers out there. So don't get that twisted. But I will say there's a lot of officers that shouldn't be officers because, it's clear. Honey, have a good walk. My fiance's going for a walk. there's a lot of people that got into it because they went to college and they didn't know what they were going to do. They saw the money and the money was attractive. And of course, the pension and the benefits and all that stuff. So, yeah, it's clear with their work ethic too. Like, this isn't anything I'm making up. It's clear, like, a lot of them just stay at the department a lot of the time and just wait for a call. They don't go to certain calls they should go to fast enough. A lot of them do things that kind of mess with their coworkers stuff. Like, for example, when I was on swing shift, the morning shift officer would leave like 3 calls pending that he could have easily got to. So the first thing I had to do, when even in briefing, I already had calls pending, which briefing lasts like anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, usually like 30 minutes. I already had 3 calls pending when it's like, bro, like, our shift hasn't taken over yet, because there's an overlap in shifts from the morning to the swing shift. So the morning shift should be taking calls all the way up until swing shift goes 10-8, which means in service. So we're good to go. But no, like, I already had 3 calls pending, and I would just have to go boop, boop, boop. And then sometimes, like, I would have another call that pops up in my district. So that's 4 now. And it's like, really, dude? Like, come on, man. Just things like that. No job's perfect, obviously, but I think when you work in a career like law enforcement, well, where other human lives are directly impacted by your work ethic, it's kind of a big deal, to do things like that. And all this is kind of hitting me in a very real way, which is why part of the frustration kicks in. But in hindsight, after all my struggle, like, if I was a police officer right now, I'd be able to be less bitter about it, because there's things that I wish I don't, as cool of stuff I did in the year I was an officer, I don't think I was done with it by any measurement. Like, I really wanted to be, making that my career and have a business alongside it. But it seems God has other plans for me, and I'm okay with that, because at the end of the day, like I said, money's not everything for me. And the longer I heal from this medical condition, and the more I think about it, and the more I have the opportunity to have these conversations with people, the more I realize law enforcement might not have been and might not be the best way for me to go about helping people. Because I do believe I helped a lot of people when I had, this is my cat, Miss Sweets. I do believe I helped a lot of people when I was in law enforcement, but I don't think it was right for me. I don't think that my personality, at least for my department, because I can really only speak for my department that I worked for, which was, again, like a small town kind of culture. So that could have had to do with it. I don't think I was a good fit for them. Maybe I'd be a better fit somewhere else, more diverse. I think about that all the time. But with that being said, I think there's still other ways to help people than to literally just bust bad guys. And as far as good, making a difference in good people's lives, it could look differently than me just showing up after something bad happens. Because that's what you do as a cop most of the time. You show up after bad things happen most of the time. So you're taking reports on it. You're trying to be as detailed as possible, so at a later date you can catch the guy. Because a lot of the time things happen very quick, people get away, and things aren't actively going on most of the time. And even if they are, the chances of them being in prison or jail for a long time are very rare. It has to be something very, very bad. So that's my little spiel on that. I am very bitter every time I see a police car. Like, I do miss it. I do miss the lights and sirens, going places really quickly, going to, serious calls for service. I miss the freedom of it, of working. It's not like a regular job where there's people hyper not that security micromanages you, but there is that more of that micromanagey feel compared to law enforcement. Law enforcement, you do so much training that the department kind of just trusts you, which they should. Obviously, if you get complaints, they're going to look at your body camera and take it very seriously. But your every day-to-day stuff, if you're not getting complaints and you're out there doing your work, you know, nobody's really micromanaging you, which is something I miss. The biggest thing for me right now is still working on accepting that I'm probably not going to be a cop again, and that's not really by choice. That's because of, you know, the department's not choosing to hire me, given, you know, my everything that happened, and they do look at the medical stuff too as a factor in hiring you. They do look at that, but a big thing for me is like letting that part go and accepting like it's okay what happened to me. It's okay I had all these issues and problems, these health issues, and it's okay that this career, despite my best effort, isn't going to work out for me most likely. And if it does, it'll be a while from now. I'll have to be smart in how I go forward. Like, I'd have to stack up a few years of positive work history, consistent work history. I'd have to keep my police academy certificate active. So I'll probably have to, if I were to still pursue a career in law enforcement, I would have to go be a reserve, which is like you work for free kind of thing, once a month or like a few times a month for a department, and it keeps your certification active. If not, you have 3 years from your last department to go get another certification, a recert. It's like 2 weeks or so of a class, and then you get it recertified. And if it expires after another 3 years, you still haven't got hired by a department, you have to redo an entire academy again, which is like 1,080 hours or something like that. So fuck that. And if I haven't got hired by that long, then, you know, I'm probably gonna forget about it. But I still have some thinking to do if it's something that I want to pursue, or if I should just, you know, say goodbye to that part of my life, which is really hard because I worked so hard. I remember when I got that letter from Chief saying that I was hired, like, I cried. I was in the Starbucks drive-through line getting ready to, you know, get my drink before the academy that night, and I got that email and I cried. I sat there in that line bawling because of how much effort it took me and how long it took me, and the entire journey was very, very you know, you want something so bad and it happens, you know, you can't help but get emotional. But yeah, I think right now I have to focus on, you know, accepting that probably it won't happen for me, and that's okay, because at the end of the day, you know, I put my head down, put my chin down, I trucked forward until I got something, and I did that. Nobody can take that away from me. So I live that, and I can be proud of that, and, you know, close that chapter of my life, if that's what I want to do, which I'm still deciding. But I think I am leaning toward that, because at the end of the day, you know, I look back at some of the happiest times in my life, and there are times when, before I was a cop, the happiest time in my life was not when I had my career in my really good apartment downtown, because I didn't have health for shit. You know, like, every time I went drinking, I couldn't fuck it. My voice was shot for like 4 days after, and all this mucus and all these issues you guys know about. Even when I wasn't actively having those symptoms, it was still hard for me to eat and enjoy things. And, you know, I just, how could I? It's just so hard to enjoy things when you have that. Like, it's really hard. And I don't want to explain things. I try not to explain myself to people that ask me about my medical condition. I try to be vague about it, because the reality is people just aren't going to understand how bad it is unless you've gone through it. So, you know, I'll sit here and talk about it on these videos because it's, you know, open dialogue is important for you guys, because I try to be transparent with everything, even if it hurts, and even if, you know, I know some people are watching my videos like, oh, Jaden's such a pussy, you know. He lost his job. He had everything. He lost his job because of this. But I didn't lose shit, guys. Like, nobody could have worked like that. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like I said, I literally waited until the last moment until I stopped. So, like I said, I did that, and I'm proud of it. I'm proud of myself for it, and it feels good to say that because I did not have this mindset, you know, most of the time. Throughout my recovery, I didn't have this mindset. It took me talking to friends, creating a men's group, and having these very open and honest dialogues with people and deep conversations for me to come to this realization. Because even my own family was really, really hard on me, and didn't really understand. And they just wanted me, they just were like, what about work? What about work? What about work? And I'm like, I wish I could go to work. Like, I literally wish, like, I want to go to work right now. When I was that sick, but yeah. So yeah, in conclusion, I will probably be saying goodbye to that career, although I don't want to put a permanent stamp on that. But at least now I know I can truly be proud of what I did and what I accomplished. And I hope any of you guys that are having a similar issue where you have to give up something you really love, please understand that you are not the career you have or the hobby you do or anything like that. You guys are so much more than that. You're the heart that you guys have. You are the mindset that you have every single day, the warrior spirit that you have, the you that continues to fight even though you guys are going through all these struggles. Whatever struggle you're going through, I don't give a fuck what it is. It doesn't matter if you have chronic health issues or you're in debt or, you know, you broke your arm or, you know, you're getting a divorce. I don't give a fuck what it is across the board. The fact that you guys are fighting, be proud of that shit. It's the real things and the mindsets that you have and the heart you have that really separate who you are. It's not what you do, guys. It's not what you do. There's people in every position that are high in every aspect of life, high up in the food chain, high up, you know, police chiefs, lieutenants, high fire captains. There's high military members, presidents of nations, leaders of countries, like, guys. And there's bad people in every aspect. So it's not your career, it's not what you do, it's who you are. Who you are is what defines you. So you could pour that into anything, and I'm starting to realize that, and it's really important. It's really, really great that I finally came to this realization. So I think this video is long enough as it is. If you guys have any questions, you know, hit me up. I'm an open book for the most part. I try to be as transparent as possible, even though, like I said, I'll get judged time and time again, and that's okay, because if you're not being judged, you know, then you're probably not doing anything of significance. So, and also, nothing really good gets accomplished from not being open in an area where you're trying to help people. And that's what I'm trying to do with all these videos. I'm trying to let you guys know, not only am I trying to document my struggles, and maybe if some of you guys are going through like literally the same thing, because I know I'm not the only one. In fact, there's several people that I talk to regularly that literally are close to spitting images of me with my similar symptoms that I talk to because I started making these videos. But if you guys are going through something similar, same thing, you know, it all these lessons I talk about, they tie together. And me talking about my struggle might motivate some people, and that makes me happy. I'm happy that I can make some meaning behind the suffering, because suffering without anything learned from it is kind of wasted. So I always want to bounce back, which is why my YouTube channel's name is Bounce Back, from the struggle, and that's where the good stuff happens. So if you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments. Share your struggles in the comments. Share your struggles, your triumphs in the comment section. Tell me your story. I'd love to hear it. I'll read each and every one of them. Read all my comments. But other than that, you guys keep staying strong, and I'll see you guys next time.